Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a 2017 NFL Draft redraft. We're going to be going through the first round and redrafting it. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. And on a quick side note, if you don't already know, I've been writing some articles for theupdog.com, which is basically a sports article website where anyone under the age of 22 can post articles on any sports topic that they're interested in. If y'all are interested on reading some of the articles on the website, there are some really interesting articles up. Or if you guys are under the age of 22 and are interested in doing some sports writing, then you can check out theupdog.com via the link in the description down below. There's some really interesting articles up, and we're coming out with new content daily. But now let's dive into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So as I've already said, in today's video, we're going to be redrafting the 2017 NFL Draft. And we're going to be going over the first round and basically analyzing some busts, some steals, and redrafting it. Also, I'm going to keep the same trades that happened in the draft. They're also going to be in the redraft, so just watch out for that. At number 1 originally was the Cleveland Browns, and they originally picked Myles Garrett, which was a great pick. One of the best young defensive ends in the National Football League. But the new pick would be Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is arguably the best player in the National Football League, and he's probably the best quarterback in the National Football League. He won the Super Bowl last year, and he is the best young quarterback in the NFL. He's young, he's talented, he has a great arm, he's got everything you need, and he would be the guy to turn around that Cleveland Browns franchise. At number 2, I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson to the Bears. Originally, the Bears traded up for Mitchell Trubisky, and obviously that did not work out. Although he has made a Pro Bowl before, he's nowhere near the level of great quarterback play as Deshaun Watson. Watson is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He has an elite arm. He's got all the skills that you need at the quarterback position. And although he's not Patrick Mahomes, the Bears would still get their franchise quarterback at number 2. At number 3, the San Francisco 49ers atone for the Solomon Thomas mistake, and they get Myles Garrett. Garrett, as I said, is one of the best defensive ends in the NFL, and Solomon Thomas was an absolute bust at number 3. Overall, the 49ers would be very happy getting Garrett, and if you look towards the future in the later drafts, imagine what that defensive line would look like if Myles Garrett was a staple of it. At number 4, we're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, where things get a little bit interesting. This draft is very deep with a lot of talent, and I'm like, they went with a running back in the real draft in Leonard Fournette, so why not give them a better running back in the redraft? Yes, there are other great players available at this point in the draft, but Christian McCaffrey is arguably the best dual threat running back in the NFL, and especially with the way that modern offenses are progressing, McCaffrey fits that build. He would have given the Jags an elite offensive weapon, and I would have loved to see McCaffrey in Jacksonville. At number 5 is a little bit of an interesting pick. Originally, I was going to give them a wide receiver at number 5 to replace Corey Davis, but then I thought about George Kittle. Kittle is one of the best all-around players in the NFL, and his ability as a pass catcher and as a run blocker is so far advanced to any other player in the NFL. Honestly, he probably could have gone 4th to the Jaguars in this redraft, but at number 5, I think he slots in well. But he's a better pass catcher than Corey Davis, and he's definitely a better run blocker than Corey Davis. Overall, Kittle's the all-around perfect weapon for this Titans team, and it would have been amazing to see him in Tennessee at number 5. At number 6 is going to be the New York Jets. Originally, they went and got Jamal Adams, and by no means was that a bad pick. But at the end of the day, I wanted to give them something different because obviously Jamal Adams and the New York Jets had a falling out. And I think if the Jets were to redo that draft, they really wouldn't go out and get a guy that didn't want to be in New York. Therefore, I think getting Tre'Davious White would have been a really good pick. White is one of the shutdown corners in the NFL. And at the end of the day, corners are more important than safeties. They're valued more, and their draft stock is worth more. So I think Tre'Davious White would have been a better fit at number 6 based on value and position scarcity. There are a lot of good safeties in the NFL that can play a variety of roles, but there are very few shutdown elite corners, and Tre'Davious White is definitely one of those guys. At number 7, I'm going to give the Chargers Chris Godwin. So originally I got Mike Williams, and Mike Williams has been okay for the Chargers. I still have him going in this first round a lot later, but I think he's still a good player. But at the end of the day, Godwin is one of the NFL's best wide receivers. He really showed up in 2019 as an all-around weapon. So I think Godwin going to LA with the Chargers would have been a really, really nice thing to see. I think he would have been a good fit there, and I think he could have done a lot of damage with the Chargers. At number 8, we're going to have the Carolina Panthers. So with the Carolina Panthers, I thought maybe give them a guy like TJ Watt, maybe give them a position player, maybe give them a guy maybe like Jamal Adams. But I'm like, they went running back in the real draft. Why not give them another running back? And I know that Dalvin Cook probably shouldn't be going in the first round because of his injuries, but when he's on the field, he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. He's an elite running back. And you can't just find running backs that grow on trees like that. In 2019, Dalvin Cook almost single-handedly led that team to the playoffs. And at the end of the day, he's a great running back, good pass catcher. And although he's not Christian McCaffrey, he's still up there among the game's best running backs. Although running backs aren't necessarily positions that are super valued in the first round, there were 2 running backs that went in the first round in the real draft in 2017. So why not have 2 running backs go in the top 10 in the redraft in 2017? At number 9, the original pick was John Ross, but I think the new pick would be Marlon Humphrey. Great corner for the Baltimore Ravens. And of course, the Cincinnati Bengals know that. They play the Ravens twice a year, and Humphrey consistently shuts down their receivers. At the end of the day, though, John Ross just wasn't a good pick. And due to value, I think, just based on value, Marlon Humphrey would be a great addition to that Bengals secondary. That Bengals secondary has struggled for a little bit, and I think adding a shutdown corner like Marlon Humphrey, who's very good in man coverage, would be a blessing for that Bengals defense. At number 10, I would finally give the Chiefs Jamal Adams. So obviously, they don't get Patrick Mahomes in this scenario. And although maybe they go out and get Mitchell Trubisky, I don't think that would be what that team would do. They take the best player available. I think the best player available is Jamal Adams. And although safeties aren't necessarily regarded that highly in first round, and although there's probably better players on the board left, but I think Jamal Adams in that Kansas City Chiefs secondary would have been dominant and been very fun to watch. So at the end of the day, I think good player in Jamal Adams going to the Chiefs. It's basically a value pick here, best player available, and I think Jamal Adams is simply that. At number 11 is finally where TJ Watt is going to fall to. I think I've been hinting to it a little bit. And honestly, TJ Watt could have gone in the top 5, but I feel like as a linebacker, maybe he dropped a little bit. I don't know why. I just like the players in front of him, and I think they were better fits. At the end of the day, though, the Saints get a steal with TJ Watt at 11, and originally they did draft Marshawn Lattimore, which has turned out really well for them. One of the better corners in the NFL, but TJ Watt is one of the better linebackers who can rush the quarterback in the NFL. Really, really good with Pittsburgh, really good linebacker. Last season, he was absolutely dominant for the Steelers. I think he had 14 and a half sacks, and if he could have done that in New Orleans, that would have been fun to watch. Imagine a great pass rushing group headlined by TJ Watt and Cameron Jordan. I think that's all I need to say. I think TJ Watt would have blended perfectly and meshed perfectly with the Saints. At number 12 is going to be the Houston Texans. Obviously, in the redraft, they miss out on Deshaun Watson, but I feel like they go out and get Ryan Ramczyk. It's obvious that the Texans team has really struggled with their offensive line over the past few seasons, and getting an all-pro caliber player like Ryan Ramczyk to play right tackle for you is awesome. Ramczyk is one of the better right tackles in the NFL. It's not the best right tackle in the NFL. There are definitely a lot of guys up in that conversation. I mean, you could look at a guy like Ryan Ramczyk or Mitchell Schwartz, but there's a lot of good players at the right tackle position. Ramczyk is definitely one of them, and he would be an absolute stud for that Texans team. At number 13, we're going to give the Arizona Cardinals Marshawn Lattimore instead of Hassan Reddick. We stay on the defensive side of the football. Hassan Reddick hasn't been great for the Cardinals, but I feel like a guy like Marshawn Lattimore is another value pick. Add to that secondary, make that secondary elite. And at that point in time, they had Tyrann Mathieu, they had Patrick Peterson. So give them Marshawn Lattimore too, and that secondary could have probably been the best in the NFL. So at the end of the day, based on pure value, I think Marshawn Lattimore would have been a great fit with the Cardinals. At number 14, we're going to go out and give the Philadelphia Eagles Jonathan Allen. So in the real draft, they went out and got Derek Barnett. He hasn't been that elite sack guy that they hoped for. Jonathan Allen has proven that he can be a big sack guy in Washington. And with the Eagles, he would have been a great player to that defensive line. Allen's physical, he gets to the quarterback, and he's a great player. Overall, I really like his game, and I think he would have been a great fit on that Eagles defensive line with guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. So overall, I mean, imagine if Jonathan Allen had gone to the Philadelphia Eagles, he could have easily put up 9, 10, 11 sacks in a season, and he could have been really, really dominant with that Eagles defense. Now, though, let's move on to number 15, where it was originally the Indianapolis Colts. In this situation, I give them a better safety than they got. They originally got Malik Hooker, filling a position of need at the safety position, but also Hooker fell a little bit in that draft. But why not give them Eddie Jackson, who's arguably the best safety to come out of the draft? There are a lot of good safeties in this draft, guys like Malik Hooker, Eddie Jackson. Buda Baker was in this draft, as well as a guy like Marcus Williams. But I think Eddie Jackson's the best out of all of them, and why not fill a position of need for the Colts at the safety position by giving them one of the better safeties in the NFL? At number 16, we're going to give a cornerback to the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, cornerback was a need at the time. They went out and got Marlon Humphrey. That worked out very well. But in the redraft, why not give them Desmond King, another great corner, another probably top 20 corner in the NFL? And at the end of the day, I think Desmond King, solid corner, solid shutdown guy, and he would have been a great player to put in that Ravens secondary. Simply, Marlon Humphrey isn't available in the redraft. Great player at 16, great pick. But there were also a lot of good corners to come out of this draft, and Desmond King was definitely one of them. At number 17 is going to be the Washington football team. So for me, they went out and got Jonathan Allen, which was a terrific pick. I really like what they did with that pick. But in the redraft, I think they go out and get Kenny Golladay. At this point, I feel like they need a wide receiver. If you look at how Washington has played over the past few seasons, they really haven't had an 1,000-yard receiver since 2016 when they had Pierre Garçon as well as Deshaun Jackson. So give them a really great receiver in Kenny Golladay, who has a big playability, big frame, good skill set, able to go up and catch the football, led the league in receiving touchdowns in 2019. So I think that would have been a great player to add to that Washington team, would have been a fun player to put in that situation, and I think he would have been very successful in Washington. Now, though, let's move on to number 18, where the Titans stick with Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson's fast, great corner. Is he a top 20 corner in the NFL? Maybe. Probably fringe top 20. Really good corner, though, and he's definitely deserving of a first-round pick. And I think he's probably, the third, fourth, or fifth best corner in this draft, so he falls to the Titans here at 18. Good pick, solid pick. I don't think there's anything that needs to change with the Titans pick. Finding really good and solid corners is a really hard thing to do in the NFL, and getting a guy like Adoree Jackson, who's arguably a top 20 corner in the NFL, but overall, Adoree Jackson really solid, and I think the Titans would be happy to get him at 18, even in a redraft. At number 19, I have the Buccaneers going out and getting Dion Dawkins. Obviously, O.J. Howard originally in the draft was expected to be like a top 10 pick. That didn't end up happening. And he hasn't been amazing with the Bucs. He hasn't been a complete bust. But the Bucs have had some offensive line problems for the past few seasons. And I think getting a guy like Dion Dawkins, who has proved to be a really good offensive tackle at the NFL level, a good left tackle for the Bills, recently signed a big contract to stay in Buffalo. So he's had a very successful career there, and I think he would have had a successful career with the Buccaneers. He would have been a great left tackle for Jameis Winston and then for Tom Brady, and overall, it would have really helped that Buccaneers offense a lot by getting Dion Dawkins instead of O.J. Howard. So at number 19, I think Dion Dawkins would have been a good fit with the Bucs. At number 20 is another pick where it's kind of just value. So the Broncos originally went out and got Garrett Bowles, who has not been a really good left tackle for that team. He's not the tackle that they hoped they were getting in the draft. But I feel like getting a guy like Alvin Kamara, who is a pure value pick here for the Broncos. I mean, Kamara is arguably a top 5 running back in the NFL. It's not a top 10 running back in the NFL. I mean, he's definitely a top 10 running back in the NFL. He's a good runner, good pass catcher, and he's a modern-day prototypical running back. In other words, I guess he's a poor man's Christian McCaffrey, but he's still an elite-level running back. Kamara is one of the better running backs in the NFL, and on pure value here, I think he would be a great fit with the Broncos. At number 21, we're going to upgrade the linebacker position for the Detroit Lions. Originally, they went out and got Gerard Davis, and he hasn't really panned out to be that great. But a guy who has panned out to be really solid is Zach Cunningham for the Houston Texans. I think Cunningham would have been a really good fit in Detroit, really good linebacker, solid linebacker, good tackler. And the former Vanderbilt product has really made a name for himself in Houston. He's an underrated football player, and I think he's definitely deserving of a first-round pick here in my redraft, going to the Detroit Lions at number 21. Now, though, let's go on to number 22, where it's the Miami Dolphins, my favorite football team. So originally, I remember the Dolphins going on and getting Charles Harris. Was I happy at the time? Not really. I feel like the Dolphins are very well known for getting some average draft picks, especially with defensive ends and outside linebackers. I mean, if you look at guys like Charles Harris or Deion Jordan, it's a common trend. But I think that the Dolphins in the redraft go out and get Budda Baker, who is one of the best safeties in the NFL. Recently got a big payday this offseason, and at the end of the day, I think Budda Baker would have been a good fit in that secondary, and he would have really given that Dolphins team a strong, really, really solid safety that would be paired next to a guy like Rashad Jones, who would have been playing at this time for the Dolphins. Really solid pick here with Budda Baker. He ended up going in the second round to the Cardinals, and he was a good fit in Arizona, so I think he'd be also a great fit in Miami in that Dolphins secondary. At number 23, the New York Giants originally went with Evan Ingram, who at the tight end position has been a little bit injury prone during his career. And although he still goes in the first round in this draft, in this redraft, I should say, I don't like him going to number 23. Instead, I have Cooper Kupp going to number 23 for the New York Giants. Kupp has been one of the NFL's better wide receivers for the past few seasons. He had over 90 catches a season and going over 1,000 receiving yards. He's a big play guy, big touchdown guy, and he's one of Jared Goff's favorite weapons. In the Big Apple, I think he would have been great with that Giants team, and especially that Giants team is always getting injured year in and year out, especially at the wide receiver position. Cooper Kupp would have been a perfect guy to add to give them a little bit more depth and to give them a little bit more star power on that wide receiving core. Now, though, let's go on to number 24, where it's going to be another value pick here. Joe Mixon going to the Raiders over Gary and Conley. Conley has not proved to be a first-round caliber player, but Joe Mixon at the running back position has been a great player for the Bengals. Consistently an 1,000-yard rusher, consistently a big touchdown guy, and his ability as a pass catcher is an exciting thing to see. I think for the Raiders here at number 24, he's a no-brainer kind of pick. Yes, Aaron Jones is arguably a better running back than Joe Mixon, but I think that's largely a part to do with the O-line. I mean, Aaron Jones has played with a lot better O-lines, and although Aaron Jones did go in this draft, I think Joe Mixon's just a better all-around running back, just talent-wise, than a guy like Aaron Jones. Yes, that might be a little bit crazy to say, but I just think that Joe Mixon's a better player, so watch out for that, and I think him going to the Raiders at 24 would have been a good move for that Raiders ground game. At number 25, we're going to give the Cleveland Browns another safety. They went with Jabril Peppers. Not a bad pick. He's still a solid safety, solid starter in the NFL. But he ended up getting shipped off to New York for OBJ in that OBJ trade. So in the redraft, I'd give the Cleveland Browns Marcus Williams, who is definitely one of the better safeties in the NFL. Solid safety with the Saints. And yes, he's remembered for the Minneapolis Miracle and giving up that play. But he's still a good safety, solid guy, really good football player. And I don't think that's a bad pick for the Cleveland Browns in a redraft. So I think Marcus Williams going to the Cleveland Browns at number 25 would be a good pick for their secondary. At number 26, it would be the Atlanta Falcons, and they originally went with the defensive end in Takk McKinley, but they've lacked some really good secondary players in recent years. So I guess getting a guy like Shaquille Griffin would have been a great addition to that team. Really solid corner, and I definitely think he is a late first-round value to him. I mean, solid guy. He's not necessarily shut down, but he's definitely a top corner in the NFL, definitely a starting caliber corner. And even a starting caliber corner to a guy like Shaquille Griffin's level is definitely worth a late first-round pick. So I think Shaquille Griffin at 26 would still be a really solid pick for that Falcons secondary. Now, though, let's move on to number 27, where it's another value pick. The Bills originally got Tre'Davious White, but I think in the new draft, they'd go out and getting Juju Smith-Schuster, who has played really well at times in his career. Yes, that 2019 season was not the most pretty season of his career, but Juju Smith-Schuster is definitely a top NFL wide receiver, good player. He's all the abilities to make big plays, big catches, and I think with that Bills team, they've been really lacking a true wide receiver one for a long time now. And now, obviously, they do have Stephon Diggs, but before Stephon Diggs, they didn't really have a true number one wide receiver. They didn't really have a real guy that they could throw the football up to for a consistent 1,000 yards year in and year out. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster going to the Bills back in 2017 would have been a really good fit with that Bills team. At number 28, I'm going to give the Cowboys Malik Hooker. They originally got Taco Charlton, defensive end position. That didn't really work out there, but Malik Hooker is a guy who isn't a great safety, but he fills a position of the need for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, for years and years, have not had an outstanding safety, and they've been linked to a lot of big safeties in the past, but they've never been able to get the deal done. So I think them bringing Malik Hooker, 28th overall, back in 2017 would have made sense. Malik Hooker obviously went a lot higher, but at the end of the day, I think he's a good pick for the Cowboys, and at 28, he'd be a real good addition to that secondary. At number 29, I'm going to give the Cleveland Browns Evan Ingram. They originally went with David Njoku, but in the redraft, I think giving them Evan Ingram would make sense. Evan Ingram is a top 10 tight end in the NFL, and if he's able to stay healthy and on the field, he's a really solid pass catcher, really, really good player who can make plays in open space. He's very fast, very physical, very athletic, one of the most athletic tight ends in the NFL, and that's why he was originally drafted in the first round. A lot of people didn't think he'd go in the first round in the real draft, but he ended up going in the first round, and for the Giants, I don't know if he's been a first-round caliber player, but I think at 29 here for the Browns, they needed a tight end at the time. They got David Njoku, and I think Evan Ingram's just had a better career and would have been a better football player at number 29. Now, though, let's move on to number 30, where the Steelers absolutely stole T.J. Watt back in 2017. In the redraft, they're going to go out and get Mike Williams. So, yeah, for me, it's a little bit of a value pick here. Williams is tall, athletic, has a very physical frame, and at the end of the day, this is a much more of a value pick and a ceiling sort of pick for the Steelers here. They didn't really need anyone. I don't feel like they needed anyone. They had a good defense at the time. They had a good offense. That's, I guess, why they were picking late in that first round. And at the end of the day, Mike Williams is a big play guy. He had over 1,000 receiving yards in 2019. Yes, he barely had 50 catches. I think he had actually like 49 or 50 catches, and he had 2 touchdowns, but he can definitely improve on those touchdowns, and definitely a big catch guy. I feel like he could be a big red zone target. And with that wide receiving core in Pittsburgh, at the time they had Antonio Brown, so that would have been fun to see Antonio Brown and Mike Williams. Now, though, let's move on to number 31, where it's going to be a little bit of a surprise pick. There are better running backs available. I know you're going to tell me that. I know you're going to say Aaron Jones is available. Chris Carson's available. I don't care because Kareem Hunt is available. And back in 2017, 2018, Kareem Hunt was one of the best NFL running backs. I know he's not necessarily back to that standard anymore, but at the end of the day, if he'd still been in Kansas City, he would have been putting up those numbers easily too. So in the original draft, they went out and got Reuben Foster. Obviously, that didn't end up working out at the linebacker position. Had a few character issues and stuff like that, injuries. But at the end of the day, I think Kareem Hunt would have been a perfect pick. I know Aaron Jones is probably a better running back. I know Chris Carson's probably a better running back. But imagine Kareem Hunt in that Kyle Shanahan offense. Shanahan, I think, came over to the 49ers in 2017. So he would have been part of this draft for the 49ers. And imagine him in that Kyle Shanahan offense. And that would have been almost as good as in that Andy Reid offense. So at the end of the day, I think Kareem Hunt going to the 49ers would have been a match made in heaven. He would have been a top NFL running back. I still think he has the ability to be a top NFL running back. So watch out for Kareem Hunt going to the 49ers at 31 in my redraft. I think that's a great pick for the 49ers. Finally, we go on to number 32, where the New Orleans Saints originally got a right tackle in Ryan Ramczyk, super solid right tackle. And although Taylor Moton isn't as good of a right tackle as Ramczyk, still a really, really good right tackle. They definitely would need a player at that caliber, need a starting player, good player in Taylor Moton, adds a star player to that offensive line, someone who's very valuable, someone who isn't going to give up a lot of sacks, someone who's not going to give up a lot of penalties, a solid player, and that's Taylor Moton's game. So at right tackle, I think Moton would have been a great pick for the Saints, and although Ramczyk was an excellent pick for the Saints, Ramczyk goes a lot higher in my redrafts, so I think Moton's still a good pick here at number 32. So with Taylor Moton going to the Saints, that's going to end my redraft. Did you agree with my picks? Why or why not? Leave your comments in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys have any ideas for any upcoming videos and any future videos, leave those in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you want to check out theupduck.com, that will be in the link down below in the description. Also, my Instagram will be in the link down below in the description. And at the end of the day, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.